Rockeyez would like to welcome Jimmy Needham. Hey, man, what's up? What's going on?
Hey, bro, I'm nothing, man. I'm eating my breakfast, talking to you.
Cool. Now, you're originally from Colorado, right?
Yeah, originally, born there, and then headed out pretty quickly.
Right. So most of your upbringing was in Texas or Colorado?
Texas. I lived most of my life in Houston.
Cool. Now, as a young kid, were you a churchgoer? Were you a follower, or did it take time for you to realize and wake up to what you really wanted?
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I'd never heard the gospel till really my sophomore year of high school. So for about the first 15 years, I was in a nominally religious family. We would do Easter and Christmas, but I was confronted with Jesus right smack dab in the middle of high school, and he just changed my life.
Right. During that time, did you play any sports in school, or just what?
I was never really a great athlete. I still to this day can't throw a spiral football, but I always had the acting bug and the singing bug. So even since fifth, sixth grade, I've been in theater and plays and musicals and talent groups and stuff like that. That was kind of my outlet.
Right. Myself, I really don't go to church that much anymore. When I was younger, my parents always took me to church all the time, and everything was like, even Easter, we had to get dressed up with like a bow tie as a little kid and stuff like that.
Wow, yeah.
I lived in New York at that time, and in Queens,
I could tell.
yeah, in Queens, New York, I lived, and right across the street from the church, actually. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so everything was church, but as I got older, other things took up my time. Yet at this time now, my wife is she rings the bells in the choir. My kids ring the bells in the choir, and stuff like that. Yet I still stay home for some reason. I don't know, maybe work, But I'm glad they're into that. Now let's get a little bit into the music stage. Your first CD came out for Freedom back in 2005. You did that independently. After that, you got signed to Impop, and did that, little jump from 2005 to 2006 really change your music at all, going from independent to a major?
No, it really didn't, and I'll tell you why. When I was solicited by the record label, I kind of made up my mind. Hey, I'm already doing what I want to do. I'm playing songs for people, and they're buying my records. So I don't need a label, was my thought. So if they want me, they're going to have to sort of come on my own terms.
Right.
And so when I came to that meeting, I kind of had a list that I'd written out of all the things that I was not interested in compromising on. And if they could meet all those, demands, for lack of a better word, then I would do it. And most of them were about, like, them not messing with the content of my music, me having creative control, me retaining rights to my master, stuff like that. And man, one after another, they just said yes to all of it. And so, by the time I had my record contract, I could still just make my records like I always wanted to. And so it was really cool. It was cool to be able to have that autonomy and still be on a record label.
Cool. So I guess you have a good relationship with them, because from 2006 all the way to 2012, you're still on the same label.
That's right. Yeah, it's been great. 4 records in, and it's been a neat ride, man.
Cool. Now, Clear the Stage is the latest CD that just came out in March. How's reviews going so far?
Man, reviews are awesome. But better than any of my other records. My other records have been really good in terms of reviews, but the feedback has just been. I've been really encouraged, man. So encouraging and so on point. It's been awesome. So really humbled by that, because you put a lot of work into these things, and you hope that response will be what you think it is, and it really has been that and more for me.
Very cool. Now, getting to some of the CD. Myself, I'm a metalhead, and I mean, I like Kiss, I like Motley Crue, I like thrash, I like death metal. But I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded, so I will listen to anything. And a person who's into heavier type music, that's a big accomplishment. Me even listening to your music, and I loved it.
Awesome, man.
You know, like when I put the CD in, you know, we get tons of CDs, but you know, I listened to every one, and I popped it in, and We'll Find You like blew me away right off the bat. I'm not a rap person. I don't like rap.
Yeah.
You know, yet
Sure.
all the songs were amazing. That's a big accomplishment, I think, on your part to bring in a metalhead into your world.
That's the goal. That's my target market is metalhead. So, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate that.
You know, it really is impressive. I posted one of the songs on my Facebook, and I really hope that, you know, people give it a chance and give it a listen. You know, because, you know, people are pretty closed-minded these days, and, you know, they're one-dimensional. And I hope I could bring some fans, you know, to your base. You know?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm honored by that, and you know, it's I grew up with all sorts of different kinds of music too. I was a metalhead for a little bit growing up too, believe it or not. So that's cool, man. That's cool. Thank you, Brian.
Very cool. And I really like Daddy's Baby Girl. You know, because I had a little girl myself, and
oh, do you really?
Yeah, her name's Ashley, and you know, she's a little bit older, 14, but she's in the girls' softball and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, you know, it brings like kind of a tear to your eye just, you know, hearing Daddy talking about his little girl. Impressive.
No doubt.
You know?
No doubt, man. I hope my daughter likes it too. I mean, she's only 15 months, so I got to wait a little bit.
Yeah, well, she'll catch on quick, you know. But was it difficult, you know, doing the songs, writing them?
You know, it felt it was the hardest part about writing songs is not writing them. It is it's knowing that I have 18 months to write them. You know what I mean? Like that's the challenge for me is going, okay, I just released a record in 2010. They want another one by late 2011, early 2012. How is this going to happen? That's the difficult part, because I mean, you probably know this with writing and with anything else. It just stifles any creativity to go, oh, I have a deadline, you know. And so initially, yeah, it was really hard. But then I sort of had to release the idea that I have to make it by this certain time, and I just sort of had to go, you know, I'm just going to write just to write, because I love to write and I love to communicate, and hopefully by God's grace I'll be able to get 10, 11 songs done by 2012, and it happened. So, you know, praise God for that. It was awesome.
Cool. Now, when you go on tour, does your family stay home? Do they come with you? What's up with that?
Kelly used to come with me. That's my wife.
Right.
She actually used to road manage for me, and she played violin in my band, and all that. And then, you know, the more kids come, the more it becomes difficult to do that. But I say all that, and then next week we're leaving for a little 2-week tour of the West Coast, and Kelly and my daughter are coming out with us on that. So it really just depends on, you know, if it's practical or not. But man, I love having them on the road. I mean, it's way easier to travel when you're not, you know, away from your family, for sure.
Cool. Now, when you play a big festival or you play a small, intimate place, which one do you like better?
You know, it's funny because I'll be doing both this next weekend. I'm playing in like a week for this festival called Rockeyez. We're playing for 12,000 folks, playing right before Tim Tebow and Switchfoot and all these bands, and then right after that I'm playing some acoustic shows. I think, honestly, if I'm being honest, there's something that I think gets lost in the mix on the big stage that I really appreciate about like the more coffee house sort of 300 to 500 person vibe venue. That's sort of where I feel most at home, because that's where I started. Coffee shops and bars is where I was playing, you know, in college. So I really just love it. I love being able to look people in the eyes when I'm playing. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, with going back to religion a little bit, do you feel like the church is losing their power. I'm not saying God. I'm saying
Sure.
religion. I noticed, like my wife would say, today we only had 65. Last week we had 120. They
Yeah.
have two services. It's kind of like what I see through my eyes is not really positive. You have anything to say about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think appearance can maybe be deceiving because, I mean, no doubt in some areas, in some churches, there is lack of growth. There is we're losing numbers, et cetera, et cetera. But statistically speaking, and you can look up this research in a book called The Reason for God by Tim Keller, who's actually a New Yorker too. He's a pastor of a church in New York. Statistically, Christianity is simultaneously declining in some areas and on the super rise in some areas. Like it might be declining in places like Western Europe and places like that. Like the churches are dying and getting smaller in places like Germany and Spain and places like that. But Africa, Asia is seeing more growth in Christianity than any other religion in the whole world. More churches are popping up in China, which Christianity is illegal, than most places in the whole world. Like there's a real boom of people embracing this idea of Jesus being God and dying for their sins. Like it's pretty amazing. Even in the States, like there's this movement of young people who are really getting behind the gospel and saying yes to living radical lives. And you see it a lot, like in a lot of different places. West Coast, up in Seattle, there's this tremendous growth that's happening lately among this church called Mars Hill, which has planted like 140-something churches nationwide, and just solid truth being taught there. It's a great church, a lot of young folks. So yeah, it's kind of deceiving. When you go to some areas, and you're like, man, I don't see how the church is going to last here. And then you turn the corner, and it's like, oh my gosh, God is doing some amazing things. So it's a little bit deceptive.
Cool. Now, do you feel there is life after death?
Yes, I do. I absolutely believe that. Yeah.
And is it spiritual, or what do you feel about that?
I believe that we are immortal beings. That death is not the period at the end of our lives, but a comma. I think that we continue on, and I think that the teaching of Jesus on earth and then what was written down about what he said in the Bible makes it clear that there is not just an eternity, but an eternity for those who have loved him and put their faith in him, and an eternity for those who have not, who've put their faith in other things apart from him. And one is called heaven, one is called hell, and it's not just that God's vindictive and he likes punishing people forever, and then he likes a few, and that's that. It's that God is perfect. We're not just eternal beings, but we're moral beings that have consciences. And I mean, you know that you have a conscience too. I mean, we and as we obey or not obey our conscience, as we do things that we know to be wrong or right, we are either breaking or not breaking those internal commandments, those commandments that God has put there in our hearts, and we have to be held accountable for that. So I believe in eternity, there is going to be a day where all the wrongs that we have done in this world and that have been done to us will be made right. Just like in a good courtroom, everybody who has broken the law will be brought to justice. The same thing happens in eternity, and that's why it becomes so important in this life to ask the question, okay, well, if I am going to be held accountable for the things I've done after I die, how is there any hope for me? Because because I mean, I don't know about you, but I know that I've done some pretty messed up stuff, you know, and I still do. Like I still fumble the ball regularly, and I got issues. You know, is there any hope for a guy like you and me on the other side of eternity? And I think the Bible teaches that the answer is emphatically yes, that we're eternal beings who will be judged according to our sins, but that there's hope if we can embrace Jesus, the only person in history who has lived perfectly and who has died in our place. That's what he came to do. Right. By the way, I think a lot of people just think the cross is something we can get tattooed on ourselves and be done with. But, you know, Jesus' cross means that all the punishment that we deserve in eternity, like you were talking about, has been absorbed in him. He took all our punishment. And he didn't have to, but he did because he loves us. And as we trust in him and believe that he did pay our fine, when we die, well, when I die, for instance, I've trusted in Jesus. I have no fear that eternity will be bad for me or that I'll be in hell, because I know, not because of any good that I did, but because of the good that Jesus did for me, I'm going to be saved, and that God has adopted me and will bring me into his heaven. And so that's the hope that I have in eternity, is that even though I know that I do deserve punishment and hell, that God has spared me from that because of his son.
Cool. Well, I congratulate you on the CD. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Even for a metalhead like me. So, you know, I hope people give it a chance, and congratulations, man.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Good talking with you, man.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
All right, see you, bro.
Bye-bye.